On this episode of That Kingsville Podcast, Chris Lewis, MP Essex, joins us. We talk council news and town gossip. Stay tuned for this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. That Kingsville Podcast is brought to you by Kingsville Brewery. They'd like to let you know that their IPA is back in stock. Visit online brew store to get your hands on some. Free delivery to Windsor, Essex County, Wheatley, and Tilbury. $5 flat fee and delivery to our friends in Sault Ste. Marie. Order today and receive yours this week. They also want to remind you that their Tank 1 and 2 brew sale continues. Another week, another sale on our limited run brews. Receive $10 off a case of either our Tank 1 Lager or Tank 2 IPA when you apply the code P4AC at checkout.
P4AC.
P4AC. Kingsville Brewery is one of the 8 teams competing in the Play for a Cure Pro-Am hockey tournament. Play for a Cure raises funds to benefit the Windsor Cancer Collaboration Fund, and a portion from all sales from our Tank 1 Lager and Tank 2 IPA will go towards the tournament from now until tournament time. Remember, free delivery to Windsor, Essex County, Wheatley, and Tilbury. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. With me, as always, Kevin Black.
Whoa.
And Steve Ianson. Thanks for joining us. Big show today. We've got MP Chris Lewis joining us. We've got some council and committee of the whole news, and then some gossip around town. So, gentlemen, just real quick, I have to shout out OG Pizza. And here's why. Steve Toplass from OG Pizza reached out to me. I submitted a guess for their contest for the Super Bowl, and it was guess the final score and the winner for the Super Bowl. And I don't remember doing it. I just apparently submitted a guess. And then I noticed a few days later after the Super Bowl, they'd announced the winners. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get a message from OG Pizza Kingsville, and it's Steve. And he says, "Hey, Dave, just realized you actually won the pizza. We want to make right by you. We're going to give you the prize as well." And I said, you know what? That's solid, because I really didn't pay any attention. So there's yet another good thing happening about Kingsville. Free pizza for me.
I think as well as a shout out to OG Pizza, we should also give a shout out to Steve's.
These are the Steves we know. Yeah, Steve's,
Indeed.
Right, done right by yet another Steve. So
Well, they're good. They're good.
Yeah, and OG did a campaign during the month of February that any queen or king size pizza was purchased, $1 went to the Erie Shores Healthcare Auxiliary.
Yep.
So, which is a nice fundraiser, a nice little touch to be able to get some new equipment there.
yeah, it kind of makes you feel good about your community, right? That was completely unprovoked. I didn't launch any kind of militant action to be like, "Where's my free pizza?" He just reached out and said, "You know what? We overlooked your entry. You actually won. We're going to make it." So, hey, again, thank you, OG Pizza and Steve and the team. You guys kill it. So, anyhow.
Here's the king.
We're going to talk a little bit about some news in the area. We've got Cottam News, new segment on the show. Cottam News, folks.
Where'd he go? We caught him.
Hoyo. Cottam Hoops starting up this year. It's a recreational youth basketball league. They will be publishing a website. You can find it on Facebook, but Cottam Hoops Youth Basketball. Also, Cottam Minor Baseball firing up yet again. So if you're in Cottam and you've got kids that want to play, they will be opening up registration soon.
Is Kingsville Minor Ball registration going?
Yeah. Online,
We're talking my daughter up.
We're talking Cottam though. Okay.
Sorry.
It's Cottam News.
Yeah, sorry, Cottam.
Underrepresented on this show.
And it's because the town doesn't like them.
Well, as avoided topically by Mayor Santos.
As 100% paraphrased from Mayor Nelson Santos.
Cottam Rotary wants you to save the date because this year they're hoping to get the 58th annual Cottam Rotary Fall Fair and Horse Festival on Sunday, September 18th, 22.
Come on. We're not talking about fall fairs.
They want you to save it's Cottam. Carve out just a smidge of time for Cottam, okay? It's a Sunday.
All right, I'll put it.
Horse show.
I'll put it in my calendar.
Other news in Kingsville.
Hold on, I'm putting it in my calendar. What was the date again?
September 18th.
September. All right. So that's how many months away?
To all of the
4, 5, 6. September 18th?
Sunday, September 18th.
All right.
Save the date.
Save the date. Save the date.
Might as well throw April 22nd and 24th in your calendar there for Kingsville's first Kingsville Girlfriend Getaway. Visit kingsvillegirlfriendgetaway.ca for further information. Apparently, they're having an event.
It's perfect time. It's almost my birthday.
Well, perfect. We can go on a girlfriend's getaway right here in Kingsville.
Be a great weekend.
The Migration Fest is looking for volunteers. Go to kingsville.ca's website to register. That's a lot of community news.
So much.
I took some time. I did some research.
Kingsville Migration Festival.
Lift a few restrictions and boom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
October 20, the third weekend in October, the 22nd, I want to say. Joining us on That Kingsville Podcast, we're lucky to have him, MP of Essex, Chris Lewis. Thanks for joining us on That Kingsville Podcast. Chris?
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure, and always great to connect with the great folks of Kingsville and of Essex, of course. And quite frankly, if I sound a little bit tired, it's because my day started at 3 this morning. So I did fly back into Ottawa, but there's no rest for the weary. So proud to be here.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. So been a little bit of newsworthy lately around the PC party, but we'll get to some of those things, whatnot. But you've had a bit of an announcement over the last couple of weeks. You've announced a private members bill, Bill C-241. You had your first reading at the House of Commons a couple of weeks ago. Could you tell us a little bit about your bill, Chris?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thanks for bringing that up. I'm incredibly excited for Bill C-241. So my private members bill, I believe I'm number 8 on the doctorate for this. It's an act to amend the Income Tax Act. So basically what it's going to do, if we can get this passed, it's going to be a reduction of travel expenses for tradespeople. So what that means is if a local tradesperson, perhaps out of, let's just say IBEW or the Carpenters Union out of our area, has to travel over 120 kilometers from their home, they can write off their travel expenses, which could be hotels, mileage, and or meals. And so because our trades are so incredibly in demand right now, we really got to we really have to support them, our trades, but also have a reason for people to come into trade. And Canada as a whole, when Ontario the economy goes down, so to speak, then a lot of times the West or the East will pick up. And so our trades folks have to travel. And it's something I'm very proud to bring forward. I really hope I'll get the support of all of the House, but I'm working incredibly hard with all members of the House of Commons to see if we can bring this to fruition. So the real exciting thing that I just sent out today, March 23rd, I have my first 1 hour debate on that. And if we can get that past the second reading, it'll go to committee. So please stay tuned.
Do you have any indication of which way the vote seems to be leaning? I know historically private members' bills are a little bit tough to get passed if you're not sitting in government.
Incredibly tough to get passed. But the nice thing is a bill like this that I truly believe that A, it's the right thing to do, and B, that I'd be very surprised if other members wouldn't support it. And the reason I say that is I know that in the last election, the 2021 election, the Liberals, I believe they introduced a $5,000 somewhat of a tax rebate. It was a tax rebate, not a tax deduction. Well, $5,000, quite frankly, doesn't scratch the surface of what these trades folks would actually incur throughout the year. So I'm hoping that we can come up to some type of resolve, and I'm excited to get to committee and plead my case and hopefully take care of our trades folks. And just so you know as well, this isn't only for unions, for all trades. So we're really trying to paint it with a broad enough brush, but keep it close enough that people can actually see some resolve for this. So.
Now we'd be remiss, Chris, if we didn't mention what was happening in Ukraine right now, and being a federal member of Parliament, obviously, you're part of some of the votes that happen, and possibly too, and maybe you can walk us through it, some of the discussions that are happening to figure out some of the different ways that Canada is responding and the different ideas that the government is putting forward to try and support the people of Ukraine. How does that process work for yourself as being a member of Parliament who isn't sitting in government at the moment? How are you part of some of those discussions that are ongoing, and what do you see as your role in supporting what Canada's doing?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say my heart bleeds for the folks of Ukraine. I've spent many a long night watching the news, as so many other folks have. Unfortunately, President Putin is, I believe, even to a greater extent, deranged. And I'll say that loudly. And if they want to ban me from going to Russia, that's okay. But and I mean that very sincerely. I really believe he's a bit of a madman. But that's not good enough. That's not the end of the conversation. These folks, you see all the desperation, all the sadness, all the unnecessary killing, all for a very free and sovereign country that, quite frankly, did nothing. So it's very sad beyond belief. What's interesting, and so my role as international trade, I sit on the International Trade Committee, and ironically, our next study was going to be Canada-Ukraine trade relations, ironically, which I believe is coming to a very abrupt end here, because how do you do a trade with a country that's literally under siege?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the truth of the matter is, if you're not in government, well, it's really tough to do anything but stand in the House of Commons and plead your case. But I will tell you, I will always give credit where credit's due. But I will say that unanimously, and standing again in solidarity, I will tell you I was very proud of the House of Commons today in listening to all stripes and colors and parties in the House. Everybody is coming together. I have not heard one person that says anything other than Canadians stand with Ukraine. And so, although I'm so incredibly sad, I'm so incredibly sorry, but I'm very proud to be a Canadian, and I'm very proud to see the House of Commons coming together. There's so many things that we don't come together on. We can all agree. And I believe we do agree that the atrocities happening in Europe right now are just, quite frankly, despicable and unacceptable. And however, I do again say thank you to even to the Prime Minister. I believe they've stopped Russian planes coming into Canada. Mm-hmm. I did see the British government today stopped cargo ships going in. So I think the Western world and the European world, generally speaking, other than perhaps a couple of countries, have come together. They've unified and said that they're not going to stand for Putin and some of his cronies. But I do want to make sure it's very loud and clear that I do not believe that it's the Russian people themselves. Mm-hmm, right. I truly believe that the Russian people are very good people, generally speaking. And I will tell you, when you see in the case of 72 hours, 6,000 people be arrested in protest, and that's something that's unheard of in Russia, I would suggest that they also know what's going on. So hoping and praying for a good resolve, a good outcome. But the news isn't looking very promising. I'm usually a very optimistic person, and so I'll keep my hands crossed and my head bowed and keep praying for resolve there.
Well, and that's an interesting point, Chris, because I did see something on social media that I thought was a really good point, where the person was laying out how, the grandma that runs the Russian restaurant in your neighborhood that's sitting there at noon making borscht is not, the person that's invading the Ukraine. And it's important to remember that that the people in our community that may have, Russian backgrounds, may have immigrated to our country from Russia, it's not their fault. And it's not the Russian people's fault. It's not even really the Russian military, the soldiers' fault. There's one man in Russia that makes these calls.
I completely agree with you, and that's why. And so, thank you for following up with that. And that's why I said what I said. In that, I'm not pointing the finger at the people of Russia. I'm pointing the finger at the government of Russia, which ultimately starts and ends, lies squarely in the lap of President Putin. And it's very scary times on such a global aspect, though, because it's not only Ukraine that this is affecting. It's quite frankly right across the world. And I know President Biden is going to be giving his State of the Union address tonight, which of course I'll be watching intensely. But I think if we even just take one step back and we think about oil, and United States is the largest producer of oil, and many people don't know that. Many people think that it's the Middle East, and it's not. The United States pumps out the most oil of anybody, but at the same time, they also bring in enormous amounts of oil from Russia, and one of the sanctions that they didn't do was energy. And so I know we're not talking Canadian politics right now or policy right now, but at the end of the day, President Biden's going to have to make a decision. Are you going to put full throttle sanctions on a madman, or are you going to only go 3/4 of the way? And so that's a lot of the things that I discussed with my own colleagues as well. And of course, I go back and forth across the border in my Canada-U.S. Relations Committee as well, and those discussions will continue to go forward. So I think it's a really, pardon my language, I guess not even pardon my language, it's a coming to Jesus moment in that, are we going to be sovereign? Are we going to supply from within? Meaning Canada has huge access to oil. And yes, do we have to be conscious of our environment going forward? Of course we do. Yes, but that's not going to be changed overnight. So we cannot be supplying on the people that decide to blow up buildings and neighborhoods of sovereign nations overseas and still get our oil from them. So there's just so many parts, moving parts to this puzzle that there's just so much work to be done. But I'm proud to be part of the work being done.
Well, and it appears there's a renewed push for Keystone.
Yeah, and then we have to talk about Line 5 as well, because Line 5 is another huge issue that, that could be a podcast in and of itself, right? And that's in our own backyard, quite frankly. And so,
Chris, and sorry to cut you off, but just so that our listeners understand, can you explain what Line 5 is?
Of course, yeah. So Line 5, so we call it Enbridge Line 5. As a matter of fact, later this week I have a meeting with the CFOs and CEOs of Enbridge. But long story short is Line 5 supplies enormous amounts of oil and natural gases and whatnot to Sarnia, which in turn turns around, ships it down to Windsor, ships it to Michigan, ships it to northern upstate New York, down into Ohio, and so much goes across Quebec. And so if we think 2 or 3 years ago, the major shortage of natural gas and propane out in our eastern provinces, much of that would be hugely affected by Line 5 if it were shut down. So Enbridge just came in, just for the listeners so they understand, Enbridge just came in and said, listen, we want to replace Line 5 with a completely encapsulated, very, very, very thick concrete with a brand new pipe that runs underneath the Mackinac Bridge, which is between the UP and the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. Something that, and by the way, Line 5 is not even leaking, so I don't really know what the conversation is really happening, but they want to put a brand new one in, state of the art. Governor Gretchen, I should say, has kind of put an iron curtain around the conversation, so to speak. So it's kind of hung up in the courts. We studied this to death, and ironically, again, Conservatives, Liberals, NDP, and the Bloc Québécois have all agreed that Line 5 should continue on, and the new one should be approved. So again, it's another good news story for Canada, but a very difficult story with regard to the Trudeau and Biden administrations finding some common ground somewhere. And I realize that it's Michigan, but ultimately it lands on the Prime Minister and the President's lap. So again, lots of work to do, and I hope that clarifies it for the listeners.
And then last topic, Chris, and we have to ask you about it, the leadership. What have you decided if you're going to support someone? Have you? I apologize, I haven't noticed if you've already come out in support of a candidate yet. And are you expecting any more names to be thrown into the hat?
So I can't believe you gentlemen didn't want to talk about the Emergencies Act tonight. Is that off the table now because it's done, or?
Well, yeah.
Do you want to? Do you want to get into it?
I'm just teasing. I thought for sure the whole conversation would have been about the Emergencies Act.
Oh,
I was just teasing.
I'd rather stab my eyes out than talk about the Emergencies Act.
I think we're all.
By the way, I'm thoroughly enjoying this podcast, so thank you for that. By the way, so I will be the first one to say this, and I will say it loudly, and I'll say it proudly. And this is breaking news.
You heard it here first.
You're hearing it here first from Chris Lewis, your member of Parliament for Essex. And within the next 24 to 48 hours, you will see me throwing all my weight, although I'm not a very big guy, behind Pierre Poilievre.
Ah, okay.
So Pierre, I had a great conversation with him on the weekend. I know Pierre, of course, I've been up here for 2 or 2.5 years, I suppose it is. And, Pierre just continues to be very steadfast. He's incredibly well spoken. He's so fiscally responsible and understands everything that he's talking about right down to the penny. I believe that our country, and I guess the only greedy bone in my body comes from my grandson, Levi, who's a whopping 10 months old now. And every time the little fart jumps on my lap, I think, what the world are you doing, Chris? And what legacy are you leaving Levi? And so because I hear the horror stories of young adults that can't afford a house, if they can even find a house to buy, that can't afford insurance, when I hear the horror stories of the young mother that comes over to my house to do some work in one of my closets along with her husband and says like the price of groceries, and she's got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old and can't afford to let them play hockey, and all the rest of those types of stories that we all hear and we all feel the same pain, let alone the fact that when I left Kingsville this morning, I think on the bypass it was 157.9 for a liter of gas, which is just absolutely ridiculous. When I see all those things, we need fiscal responsibility. We need people that understand what they're talking about. So in my discussions with Pierre on Saturday, we had a good long chat. As a matter of fact, I kept saying to him, go call somebody else that will vote for you. And he said, no, Chris, I want to hear everything you've got to say. And so I talked about my private members bill, which he 110% back. He thinks it's a fabulous private members bill. He believes it'll actually pass in the House of Commons. I talked about our auto industry here, the lack of chips, which continues to shut down our assembly line. And I spoke about our Canada-U.S. relations and the fact that, our border's been nothing less than a travesty, and he's right there with it. So, again, you heard it here first, and Chris Lewis will be coming out in full support of Mr. Poilievre. I would suggest that there's been some discussion with regard to Jean Charest throwing his hand in the ring. And I'm trying to think there's somebody else. Maybe you guys know more than I do here. I'm not 100%.
I think Pierre's the only one that's really been vocal.
Yeah, there was rumblings of Peter MacKay again, possibly.
Little bit of rumblings of Peter MacKay. I don't think he would. I don't know for sure. And listen, I don't have any ill will towards Jean Charest or Peter MacKay. The truth of the matter is, we need to unite as a party for the sake of our country. And so I always call myself the ultimate team player. I've never really come out and backed anybody before, but I believe now is the time to do it because we need to get Justin Trudeau out of his role as Prime Minister. And so I thank Justin Trudeau very much for the work he's done for Canada. However, it's fallen short on many fronts. And so therefore, I'm going to get behind Pierre. So thank you for asking the question.
And you know what? I have a follow-up, and I'm getting the look because this is going long. But you know what? Pierre does come with some perceived and possibly not accurate baggage that that potentially him as a leader may be difficult to get the Conservatives elected. The popular opinion of pundits, and take it with a grain of salt, is that he's not a candidate that would be able to lure that center voter who may lean liberal or conservative. Are you concerned?
I'll give you no, not even a bit, and I'll tell you why. And so that same mother, the mother that did the work in my closet at home, she's 26 years old. She has a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. And she said to me, I've never met her before. She actually doesn't even live in my riding. She lives in Windsor. And she said to me, Chris, if you ever meet Pierre, please tell him that I absolutely adore him. This was totally unscripted. They only knew I was Chris Lewis because they saw a Chris Lewis elect sign in my garage. That's the only reason why. Okay. And so they said that. And then I will not say the name of the doctor. I just had my shoulder. By the way, it's the last injury that got fixed from me falling off my horse.
Oh.
So everybody else knows Chris Lewis is back. But I just had shoulder.
More breaking news.
Shoulder. Shoulder surgery there. I guess 12 days ago now. And I went for my follow-up with my doctor, of which I will not, with a surgeon, I won't say his name. And he said that his daughter, he asked me who I was going to back. And I told him Pierre. And he said his daughter, who's 23 years old, is just adores Pierre. So there's two people in less than two women, young women in less than 2 weeks that completely say, yes, please back Pierre. And so the more people I speak to, the more people I hear, please just back Pierre. So I'm doing this more for Chris Lewis. I believe it's the right thing to do. I think it's I trust the man. And I guess you almost have to get to know somebody and listen to people before you can trust them in today's society. But I will tell you, Pierre's a very good individual. He's a very straight shooter. And what he says, he's never, ever not followed through with me. I will also say, though, I think it's important. There's a few rumblings with regard to the World Economic Forum and some falsalities that are running around. I don't know who's spreading them. I can only assume what color it is that's spreading them around. And I will tell you that with regard to the World Economic Forum, I did speak to Pierre about that on Saturday, and he said unequivocally that no. He's not about, one bank for the whole world. That's not where Pierre comes from. So, I'm proud to support it. I think now is the right time to get there, to get behind somebody that is, of course, a francophone, but it's bigger than just being a francophone. It's the fiscal responsibility. And it's the right as well, because I am a social conservative. He said, I will always back your way of thinking and allow you to have free votes in the House of Commons. So, I guess if I could have my cake and eat it too, that's the best place to go. So I hope that's a fair answer for you, gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chris, we greatly appreciate the time. Definitely going to be an interesting year, what with some global events, just how the hopeful end of COVID kind of plays itself out and the re-emergence of our independence of Canada and how we reopen borders and get back to society. And then again, with your leadership run or for the party this year. So definitely some very noteworthy historical things going to happen in 2022. And again, Chris, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us tonight. And we greatly appreciate all your service for our community.
And I really appreciate the opportunity to jump on your podcast with you. And thanks for giving me a little bit of time just to let the folks know what's going on. And by the way, you said COVID. I thought that was gone. I thought COVID was all right.
Yeah, as of today.
Okay.
Yeah, well, hey, as soon as I can cross a border without having to get a test, I'm a believer. Chris, if you got any pull, Chris, I got family in Michigan.
All I really have is rapid tests, but I could certainly help you out with that one.
Excellent. Like I said, thank you very much again, Chris Lewis, MP Essex. Thanks for joining us on That Kingsville Podcast.
Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
So, wow. There's some things. Bit of a
breaking news.
Are we gonna get any? Is like the Windsorite gonna credit us for breaking that?
They should.
Oh,
I think the breaking news is Polivier.
Polivier.
Is that right? Or is it
Polivier?
I don't know. I never get French pronunciations right.
Pierre.
Poilievre. See, I have heard Polievre.
Yeah,
but that sounds like
anglicized.
awful.
It's like Favre. right? Favre. Favre.
I got the last ever interview with Brett Favre.
Did you?
Well, as a professional football player.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
he was his last game was
a
when he was
Minnesota
with the
Viking.
was in Detroit. And he did a press conference, and I followed him out to the bus,
scoop,
and I got him outside the bus.
Wow.
Oh, you didn't have to sit and wait for him to get off the bike or whatever?
No, that's
all right. All right, council news. So we got a little bit of committee of the whole, a little bit of town council. We're going to lead into it. So we are a full month behind on the meeting minutes for town council. We have regressed, folks. People at the town,
we need some
minutes, maybe the videos. I don't know. It's crazy.
The videos would be great too.
So,
and see, I was confused there. I didn't know if we were behind because we hadn't talked about them for a month, or they just haven't put them up for a month.
Maybe they knew we were on hiatus, so they just figured, we got a month off.
Last one's
they're not talking about us, so we got time.
I'm pretty sure that we control some of the.
If Kevin's not checking.
You walk through there. Did you hear those guys on that Kingsville podcast this week? Nobody did that. Nobody
ever does that.
Oh, well, the last one's posted on January 24th. So, as soon as those get updated, we can actually factually find from the official record.
Or even see a video of it. That'd be cool.
Be
I mean, don't they tape record it? Isn't there some form of video process that's happening with the?
It is live, and then it goes away.
Well, no, it's still is available after, but then they take it. Then they physically remove it from the website.
Right, it goes away.
Yeah,
and then
someone makes the decision. I'm going to go on the website and take that video off.
Yes,
and then they just kind of wait for a bit,
and then it comes back.
And now I'm going to put that video back on
when any of it is not relevant anymore.
I thought it'd be interesting to point out that of all of the municipalities in Essex County, including the city of Windsor, and also into Chatham-Kent, all of them post the videos the day after the meeting happens, except for the town of Essex. But the town of Essex has it posted within 3 days.
Well, hey, you know what?
Just saying, not that I want to point any fingers, but the town of Kingsville is the only town that operates this way. Don't want to point fingers. I don't want to say that, specific areas are maybe falling down, but everyone else other than the podcast that we're based on posts them the day after, except for Essex.
Better late than never.
Asterisks.
Better late than never, Kevin.
There's a Kevin rant.
Aye.
Videos.
We miss those. I do. You know what? Hopefully now that COVID is ending and we can get them all back in one room, we can actually have live audiences back at council meetings.
I can't wait to heckle.
Heckling.
That's one of my favorite parts.
Heckling.
Or booing. Shame.
No.
Shame. All right.
No, we don't shame them. You can't shame them.
So
that bylaw. Because I didn't like the way they passed that confirmatory bylaw.
We'll talk about bylaws. So at a committee of the whole meeting at some point in time over the last couple of months, they requested an update about the K-12 school, for which the school board responded that they will provide us an update by the end of February. So we are still waiting for an update for the update on the school.
I do believe...
Which February?
27.
Oh, okay.
I think it's only in a leap year.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that the update that they were providing, that they did officially provide by the end of February, was that they will be providing an update.
Yeah, well, for an update.
That's not even a joke. I'm pretty sure that's actually what it was.
Come on, skirt the issue. So, anyway, same committee of the whole meeting. Dr. Charles Morgan, who is a resident of Division Street North, had a proposal to remove the turning lane on Division Street North and turn it into biking lanes for both sides.
So how far would that go?
So that would go from Water Street all the way to Palmer.
Okay.
So pretty much at Kingsville Public Schools main entrance to Palmer Drive. So he had a very long listed argument towards changing it. He calls the turning lane the passing lane, which I can kind of agree with because as resident of this part of town, I see people blow by slow moving traffic. However, I also do see volunteer firefighters utilizing it to get the quick access to the fire hall, which is on that route. So,
well, we can also just call the bike lane the passing lane too. I mean, pick your poison.
Correct. Which we could say,
the road doesn't change in size.
Seacliff. Well, if you're, you see what's happened with the bike lanes in between Kingsville and Ruthven. People pass on the right.
I see it all the time.
All the time. In fact, dangerous. So anyhow, that then at Town Council, Councillor Neufeld brought
Never
it.
seen that happen?
What?
No.
Passing on the right? Oh, geez, Steve. Golly.
On Seacliff, like the quote unquote bike lanes that are half the size of a normal bike lane, and they only made it
over the
right.
gutter.
They pass it on the right.
Like, I haven't seen it.
Especially,
what are you talking about?
Hey. Well, I'm not always. I don't.
I guess. Yeah, you're right.
Like, but,
you
guys
that
do.
Happens.
Yeah, you're there for the farm.
I'm not disputing it doesn't happen. All I'm saying is I haven't seen it yet.
It happens quite often.
But if I'm in Leamington tomorrow, I'm going to be even more alert, watching for those people.
It happens.
Anyway.
So Councillor Neufeld brought it to council this past meeting, which just happened Monday. Monday. What day is it today?
Yeah,
it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
He brought it to council as a motion. So that motion was then deferred pending a report from the Director of Infrastructure, including some options. So there was also, some informal conversation about this proposal, and there's a lot of non-support for it. There's some support for it. So it'll be interesting to hear what they arrive with regards to what the options would be. I'm hoping that they want to keep that turning lane because I see its utility.
So this is so confusing. So what is the benefit of a bike lane? Like where is a cyclist going between Water and Palmer that they can't already go?
Dairy Queen, Tim Hortons. But that's even beyond. So they would have to ride on the side of the road.
I know you.
Yeah, you're a cyclist.
You're
Gary.
a cyclist.
I don't particularly think it's a great idea, but I see why they want it, and I don't see it. But once you get to Palmer, then you can go to the right side of the road and you've got the multi-use path.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not a part of the CWAT's infrastructure.
No, it's not.
It's not County Road 50. It's not 20. It's not Seacliff. It's not any of those.
Can we just not impact the traffic in front of the new Tim Hortons? Like we just built it because of traffic problems. Well, and now we're gonna limit the traffic availability in front of it. What? Well, near it. Like it's.
So I'm not an avid cyclist, but I have cycled that stretch of division, and generally motorists do give you plenty of room to move over. I've seen a lot of cyclists use the sidewalk though, probably because they don't feel safe. But you mentioned traffic at Tim Hortons. What?
Why can't they just? Why? I know this is not kosher, but why can't you just use the sidewalk?
Because the sidewalk's for pedestrians.
So turn the ones, and if that's the whole thing, then turn the one sidewalk into a path.
Mm-hmm. Which is one of the options.
If you're delivering Route 8, you need a sidewalk on both sides.
All they have to do is the cyclists, and I invite all the cyclists to come down Palmer and then come down Prince Albert, and there's a multi-use path on Prince Albert too. Yeah. And it goes right, to Maine.
To say that removing the turning lane. Sorry, Steve.
No, I was just and the other part of it is so let's say we eliminate the turning lane. So we have bike lane either side, and we have just northbound lane, southbound lane. You've got 3 cars looking to make a left-hand turn heading south onto McCallum. Because McCallum does get quite a bit of traffic.
Turn down it every day.
Or even Millbrook.
Yeah.
So you're backing traffic up until the northbound cars can go. Maybe one goes, but then there's 3 more cars that come, and then the second car goes. And obviously there's more accumulation of traffic. If you're heading north, you might get an occasional car looking to turn onto Ivy.
Or Palmer.
Or Hillview. Mm-hmm. Palmer, you'd get probably a few more, especially because, some people may come out of Horwath or Thorncrest to turn onto Palmer.
Isn't there going to be a subdivision that connects here?
To Fox Lane.
Yeah.
To Fox Lane.
Yeah, the other
which
way.
will
then you're creating a significant amount more traffic with this
and that's just
being
it.
a major
So you mentioned
through.
Tim Hortons, and maybe initially it was in jest, but I think there's some seriousness to that because it's not just Tim Hortons, it's Dairy Queen, and it's whatever else is going to be going into that plaza.
Yeah.
There's
the
an increased traffic flow.
The new ambulance space.
Right. So
Mellow.
you mentioned firefighters using it to get to the station, but if you've got 2 lanes of traffic, think about the majority of the fire calls. Which way are the trucks usually going?
South Division.
Yes.
Through that
right.
center lane.
Because if they have to go towards Harrow, they're not going to then, let's take Road 2 and right? No, it doesn't make sense. I'm just, and it's nothing against the proposal. It's nothing against the cyclists, but to eliminate that turning lane.
In what world does it make sense to have Jasperson have more traffic capacity than Division Road North?
Yeah. Well, eventually there's a future proposal to turn Road 2 into a residential road.
Yeah,
right?
Which is fine, but Division Road North is your main arterial entrance into the town.
Yep.
At what point does it become a county road? Or is it a county road from Maine?
I thought it was past Road 2.
I think it's Road 2.
Is it? Okay. I wasn't sure.
I thought it was past Road 2. Anyhow, I think it's a little bit naive to say that if we remove the turning lane, it's going to be a traffic calming initiative. And I don't think unless you put a chicane or stop signs or barriers or speed bumps or whatever, the speed limit, if that's the primary issue to calm the traffic, I think it's still going to be a prevalent issue. It's a speedway.
But that's the issue on almost every street in Kingsville.
Correct.
You hear them all. You can hear them probably on your street.
Jasperson.
Yeah, you're on the corner of Jasperson.
Yeah.
You can hear them.
Yeah, Prince Albert. Yeah.
Yeah. Woody Crest is the same. But so it's not like Division North is any different to so many other streets.
Seacliff is 2 lanes without a turning lane, and it's a drag strip.
Yeah.
And it's not like Division Road North. If you're going to remove the turning lane, is going to calm traffic. Look at coming into town on Seacliff. People go 80 and a 60 constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll happen on Division. Of course it's going to happen on Division. And people are still going to pass like they are now, only they'll drive through the bike lanes and put cyclists in danger.
The one point I do want to make is we did mention the firefighters, and it's not like the firefighters are purposely using that as their own drag strip, because at the end of the day, they have their green lights, and people need to be aware. And this is like a public service announcement for the green lights, because I have seen it on several times where firefighters have been coming through. They've got their 4-ways on, they've got their green lights on, and people are oblivious to what that flashing green light on the dashboard of the vehicles means. Well, simply, if you see it, please.
Yeah,
put your turn signal on, pull to the side of the road, and allow them to pass, because
the way.
They're somewhere they need to be important. So, anyway, off on a tangent.
Sorry, there's still more to discuss. There was a proposal by Councillor Lucier again to inquire about future planning for purchasing the KDHS school property when it becomes surplus. And I think it was the 2027-2028 timeframe to see if we can start formulating when and how to execute that and start raising funds. And my point is, we can't neglect KPS. And I'm still firmly a believer that if we can reallocate that property and regain some downtown, both commercial and mixed residential and green space in our exact downtown core, that should be a huge priority for council and future councils, because that will be the defining moments. Not to say that Kingsville High School property isn't important, but I don't know how many other towns will have a huge chunk of property with that landscape on the creek in the middle of the downtown core become available for future development and planning. You pointed at me.
Well, I did, because I just wanted to have the next comment once you were done.
Yes.
No, and what I was going to ask is you have a very interesting idea and proposal for that area. Yep. If we discussed that on the podcast.
I think we did briefly.
Briefly, yeah.
Okay.
And really quickly, just to summarize, so utilizing the greenway or the green space and the hill to create more downtown commercial / residential properties with parquet, reconnecting a couple of the roads to act as more frontage for retail space. We know up until recently, unfortunately, because of COVID's effect and some of the businesses unfortunately having to close, we didn't have any downtown retail space. So what better than to expand our own retail zone in our downtown core, which is what every town wants to do, by the way, so we don't end up putting our new commercial space out in an artery or outside of town, a la Leamington, a la most other towns where a Walmart goes and a Mark's Work Warehouse goes and a Canadian Tire goes, and then all the economic boon goes out that way, and then it kills the downtown core. It's incredible. This is economic development 101. So if we don't consider that, we're not doing ourselves enough of a service.
Wouldn't a European-style town square be cool?
Fantastic. Geez, oh Pete, would it ever. Again, green space. You've got so many different restaurants that could offer, take out to go, have a nice little parkette in the middle of town, because we like having events in our downtown core. We have the Migration Festival and open streets and blah, 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 blah.
I guess kitschy would be a good word.
Kitschy?
Kitschy.
Kitschy.
Yeah. No, but you have these cool, if we want to model ourselves similar, like we talk about Kingsville on the Lake, and everyone thinks, well, are we Niagara on the Lake? Are we not Niagara on the Lake? But there's the prime opportunity.
It's Kingsville.
But I will say I'll say this to the proposal. I have nothing against. I see the value in the Kingsville High School property too.
Yeah. Oh,
but at the
absolutely.
end of the day, why not both? And I get it. Money-wise,
well, Leamington's
it's an investment.
Leamington is a precedent. We saw Leamington sell the high school, and I believe it was Mill Street School that got sold for $1.7 million.
Did they sell a high school?
Yes, Leamington bought it. They're going to develop it as a resident.
Yeah. No. I know. No. Sorry, Leamington bought Mill Street.
And the high
the
school.
way you said, I thought they had. After they had purchased it, they had then sold both. But they sold Mill Street.
Yeah. They will sell the high school when they review RFP options.
Right.
Okay.
So it was purchased for a reason as a future development for affordable housing.
Right.
So that is the whole initiative, which can be done with Kingsville High School. And in fact, part of my proposal was, again, using a different type of an approach, partnering with a whole bunch of different builders / provincial options availability, because it's such a major issue. And we have Migration Hall on the property, which can serve as a community center. If we add on to it, to foster things like a retirement community modeled similarly to like wartime housing, which is strawberry box housing, 880 square feet.
Strawberry box housing.
That's what they called
heard
it.
That
yeah,
one
that's what they called it. So I think it was strawberry box housing out west, and then it was all wartime around Ottawa and in Ontario and a little bit out east. So like we have history. That's a Canadian thing. Like if you want to talk about Canadian developments, that was us. We did that for everybody coming back after the war. So. Which also leads into another issue in council. So 140 Main. So this is the development that is immediately to the east of the high school. So this is the new one building that is perpendicular to Main Street that has just been almost completed.
It's gray.
It's gray.
If you haven't seen
gray
it.
Brown. So they wanted to see if they could get an exemption from the interim control bylaw to continue with their phase 2 of their development, which would include a 6-story building with 70 units, a 4-story building with 56 units, and then a new street that would run from Spruce and connect the back of the property. And eventually, I believe the proposal would connect to Woodycrest behind the medical center. So they were seeking an exemption from the interim control bylaw. So.
I think I'm trying to think about that report when it came, and I feel like that street was on the report. Part of the
interim control, yes, I believe that was where it was.
Yeah, that was part of the bylaw.
So yeah, they were looking for an exemption in order to continue that development. So I'm not sure because the minutes aren't posted and I didn't catch the video. So
Weird.
I'm sorry.
The video's not available.
I'm sorry, you patient folk. You know, it's a great episode so far. We got lots more to go.
Maybe they just technologically haven't been able to. Maybe they have to like transfer the film to get it developed.
The microfiche.
Tell Nelson to give me a call. I can do video.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, Gary can do it.
Quantum Sound Production.
Yeah, they need to work on the microfiche.
Yeah. No. So I'm sure that because they've already started breaking ground.
Oh, I wonder if it's the connection to Woodycrest, because remember that we asked specifically about that, and the thought was, there'll be an emergency barrier. Here it is. Yeah. This is the smoking gun.
Yeah. So
we knew it was coming.
And it's gonna.
We talked about this a year ago.
Yes, you've heard it here first.
Loudly.
We talked about it.
We did. And we asked, and they said no. There's going to be some special like
barrier.
Yes, a magic arm that'll know when to go up and down when
emergency vehicles
have to get in.
A garage door opener button.
Yeah.
And it goes.
Well, it's like in Simcoe. I know the fire trucks have a special button to make the light go green for them.
Yeah, major.
We
cities
have that here, don't
too.
we?
Yeah.
Don't we have?
yes, we do.
Yeah,
Spruce,
we have the light.
Yes,
yeah.
we did put that one.
Yeah, cities do that to get from one side
I
to
just
the next.
remember when it was proposed to Kingsville that they used Simcoe as an example. That's why that was in my head.
So yeah,
I'm going back a few years.
Listen,
too.
Actually, sorry. Can I go on a complete
A rant?
you got about 60 seconds.
the Albuna Bridge?
Yeah.
They just built that like 10 years ago.
You mean
Is
the
that
Arner
the
Town
replacing?
line?
That's the one they're replacing.
The heated bridge.
I'm pretty sure.
No.
the heated
No,
bridge.
it's
It's Arner Town line. It's the second bridge for
gonna
closest.
say.
It's
further
not the
south.
heated
It is
bridge.
not the
No.
heated bridge.
Okay,
and that's Arner Town
I
line.
withdraw all of my
Yes.
material.
We're gonna have to.
Yeah, no.
It's like-
There.
Is it the heated bridge?
No, it is not the heated bridge. You mean the heated bridge that doesn't turn on?
The heated bridge that doesn't heat anything. That's the one.
No, it is. There are two bridges. This one is the smaller of the two. It is further south.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
trust me. The thought
My-
ran through because I started seeing the signs going out that side of town to go visit family and head towards Harrow, and like holy cow, what they're replacing that bridge? Like that was a big ordeal. Much like it was when we repaved Division Street North to add the turning lane.
Oh, turning lanes. Was
Aye.
it seems necessary.
I can see points for both sides of that
Yeah.
argument, but
Can you? I can't. I really can't. I see the only argument that I think is a viable argument is pulling up the sidewalk on one side and putting a paved
Sure.
trail down, just like on Jasper.
Yes, but that really impacts mail delivery.
and I
Yeah, and
gotta make it your issue. I gotta
Like
make
I said earlier,
Canada
right?
the Post.
Becomes an issue.
I think that if the traffic,
what is the issue?
Safety.
With the
What?
paved path?
Oh, okay. So you're saying okay? Now I get it. So okay.
Yeah, just pull up the sidewalk, put a paved path there.
right,
Okay.
like the continuation above or north of McCallum.
Now I understand. Okay,
Yeah, so
not an issue.
Right,
I can,
around Prince Albert.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Prince
right.
Albert.
Yeah,
Okay.
same idea. Yeah,
But
But
so we have precedent.
I think if the traffic was monitored and regulated, this wouldn't be as much of an issue. If we actually were able to observe the speed limit that was posted,
I saw these great. So I was up in Muskoka. Maybe this is more widespread. The only place I've seen them is around the Gravenhurst ballot area. Are these signs? They look just like a street sign, but it's solar powered and it's got your speed on it. It's the radar signs.
Mhm.
So just like the OPP have the trailer and they move the trailer around.
Yeah.
Well, on roads where this is a continual problem, i.e. Division, i.e. Main Street or
Doesn't
Seacliff.
Riverside Drive in Windsor have
Yeah,
one or
they
two?
Do they
They've
have
got
one too?
Yep.
That's how long it's been since I've been down
Yeah,
Riverside.
what do you think the budget line item is?
I don't think it would be that bad.
Should we invest in those instead of soundproofing the Grovedale? We got COVID money. What do we?
I'm
need
sorry.
this
Did
for?
you say Grovedale?
Grovedale?
Never heard of. Where's that again? Is it by the lake?
It's by the lake.
Oh, it's by the lake. Okay.
It's not a low blow. It's a low blow. What do we got, Steve?
Hey, how's the view on that porch?
Nothing? All right.
No.
So, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen when the medical center development was at 200 Main and those two buildings, because they've actually started clearing the ground behind the medical center.
Oh yeah,
So,
I noticed that today. Nice and smooth.
yeah,
muddy.
As soon as they start putting up structure, I think there is a large amount of the local community, even though there's a gigantic sign out front of the development. Have you seen the sign?
Yeah.
If anyone goes, I didn't know that they were going to build this here, is blind, because those buildings are on that billboard.
Now, employees from the town drove by the building while it was being built every day and didn't realize there was a second story being built. So,
Wow.
It was approved.
Wow.
It was
right.
approved.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
laugh
it's
a
approved.
minute here. God, this is why you tune into That Kingsville Podcast.
Hey, so how about LPAT?
Yeah.
I love LPAT.
LPAT.
Honestly,
What do they
I
call it?
think
OLT now?
I think is that what it is?
OLT.
What did it used to be? Or B? Do you remember? It was
Different to the
O.
OMB.
OMB, that's what it was.
Right,
It's
yeah.
Municipal. It's
Yeah.
OMB. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it became something else, and then it was LPAT.
LPAT, and then I think it's OLT, like Ontario Land Tribunal now. I think is
They
what it
can't
was.
make up their
OLT.
mind on their name. How can they
Yeah.
make up their mind on?
OLT, yes. So yeah, interesting that.
So that we don't like it now.
Apparently not. I don't.
Is it because they're about to lose?
I don't want to speculate.
No.
I don't want to speculate.
Okay.
But it's conveniently timed.
It's conveniently timed around the same, decision that LPAT previously ruled on in the town of Uxbridge with an exactly identical development and ruled against the municipality. And then the town, even though it received some of that information, decided, you know what?
We know better.
We know better.
The direction.
Yeah. You know what? We got this.
And it's 2 months today that they can file candidacy. We're getting close.
March 1st.
Yeah.
Hey, when is
May 1st?
May 1st.
What is the?
No, it is
What's
May
the address of that one again?
183.
183 Main. Let me just. Can I bring my phone out again?
Are you using the Google machine?
I gotta check.
September 22nd. Save the date for the Cottam.
I wanted to check. Yeah, there it is.
September
Okay,
18th.
so the for those wondering, 183 Main's Land Tribunal meeting begins on July 18th.
July, so right in the thick of campaigning time.
Yeah, right in the thick of campaigning.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting one. And there is a Zoom link that'll be made public. It's actually already been made public. Maybe we can share it so people can, tune in, see how the lawyers for the town of Kingsville argue that decisions that have already been made maybe were, wrong.
It's got to be a hard one. It's
Tough to craft a defense when the precedent is identical and going in that it's going to be fraught.
It's one of the
with issues.
It's one of those issues where if it's not of popular opinion, but is completely within the legal end of things, you can't fight that.
Can't fight it.
Can't fight that.
And that's the thing. And don't get me wrong. I'm not overly in favor of condos being built there, but I don't own the property, so I don't get to decide what's built there.
Correct. Yeah, it's one of those things where I know it's not. Nobody likes when change happens, significant change happens. Nobody likes that.
No,
change is hard for humans. That's a natural thing. But so is evolution, and so is that, change is perpetual. It will happen. Yeah. It's just that those individuals were working within their rights. And in fact, they actually changed the whole scope of the project to retain the building as it was determined by an initiative.
Which is interesting because that decision lines them up perfectly with that application in the town of Uxbridge.
Correct.
Like it now, the only difference is the decision of the town of Uxbridge actually was they were going to move that heritage building and it was still approved. This is going to keep the building completely intact and then build it in behind. I love that. And then we're going to say, you know what? Instead of having to argue this, we'll just get rid of the tribunal.
Who are the ones that decide whether or not our decision is right or wrong?
Right.
Okay, let's vote them out.
That's a better move.
Let's disband that group.
Gone. We can talk about baseball.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Well, they
first two series.
Yeah, they announced today that spring training still has to happen. So opening day is not going to happen.
Like I said, 4:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah,
145
game schedule. I heard now.
Yeah, 145.
June.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh. Which is going to suck.
Good old baseball.
Well, it's 1993. Four all over. Yes, four all over.
The year
again.
the Expos should have won the World Series.
They should have.
Yeah.
They should. It really could have been an all Canadian World Series.
Yeah.
The Jays had started to fall apart.
No, but that was still that
they
92-93 team. That was still the powerhouse.
They lost the Molitor, Winfield,
Olerud.
They lost Olerud?
He went to Texas, didn't he?
Did he?
No,
in
I
that
went
year?
to Seattle, but I thought it was later.
Yeah, I think it was later.
Okay.
Was it 95 maybe? Maybe he was there for
Fred
94.
McGriff. Fred.
No,
McGriff.
he was in 92.
Lloyd Mosby.
McGriff was part of the
win a World
Padres.
Series.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just naming old Blue Jays.
No, I know it was McGriff and what's his face for
Tony
Alomar and Carter,
Fernandez.
Jesse Barfield.
and then Fernandez came back. Well, he was before even the World Series.
Are you a Jays fan?
Yes, I was a Jays fan before I moved here.
George Bell, Lloyd Mosby, and Jesse Barfield.
Jesse
Yeah, it's the
Barfield.
greatest outfield in the history of baseball.
Devon White.
Garth York.
Garth York, Willie Upshaw,
Willie.
Doug
Upshaw.
Alt.
Alt, yes.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
You don't remember Doug Alt?
Third base.
No, it's before
Nice.
my time, I guess. Jimmy
Yeah.
Key,
Jimmy
oh,
Key.
yeah. Tom Hankey. When those gigantic glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dwayne Ward,
Like he just looked at
Mark
the ball.
Eichhorn.
met Pat Henkin.
Dwayne-
Pat Henkin did a
Dwayne Wade.
a
Dwayne
pitching
Ward.
clinic here in Kingsville years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he
Dwayne
was-
Ward was him and Jimmy Key. Those were my guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The setup, man.
Yeah. And then you had Cecil Fielder,
Juan Guzman,
Juan Guzman,
Yeah.
Cito Gaston, you know.
Ed Sprague,
Kelly Gruber. I was a big
I
Kelly
hated
Gruber.
Kelly. I hated Kelly
I was a
Gruber.
Kelly Gruber fan.
Hated Kelly Gruber.
Pat Borders.
Yeah.
Pat Borders. He was a great catcher.
So yeah, a lot of unusual things happening in town. Now we got a little bit of fire in, some developments with council. There's some future things now that are a little bit controversial.
I'm
coming
excited to be able to sit and watch the early February meetings in the spring.
April. Oh, you know what? I would hope that they take this,
Maybe they're updating it quarterly.
oh boy. Yeah, like it's on there. It's not relevant when we want to go look at it. Oh, well, if anything, we all get to look forward to extremely high gas prices for the foreseeable future. So, save your pennies, spend it locally. A lot of businesses could use some of the support now that the vaccination proof has been removed and capacity limits are gone. It's only a matter of time before other things are removed. So, get out there, support local businesses like Kingsville Brewery. Thank you again, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Weather's turning. Eventually, the beer garden will be open back again down by the water, and you can stare at that building.
Pile of gravel. Kingsville Mountain.
Thanks very much for tuning in to this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. Join us next time when we ramble about whatever the heck it is we want to ramble about ad nauseum.
Things and stuff. Coming up.
Anger. Kevin rants. Thanks for listening.